Welcome back to Cereal for Lunch, where founder therapy sessions are free, and that is good because they are not covered by insurance. This is where a few founders grab the mic, drop the ego, and talk about what's really going on behind the pitch decks. I'm Zach, the Lego Maniac Oates, joined by Brett, Mr. Monetize It or Kill It Larson, Chad, Does That KPI Spark Joy Ingram, and today's guest host, a founder, a podcast host, a professional momentum maker, John Bradshaw. And for the whole world, I'll apologize in advance for him because I credit John Bradshaw with getting me into startups.
What?
Remember that, John? No. Yes. No, true story, John. I had an idea on a startup, and I went to you, and I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And you said, that could really be a startup. You should totally do that, and you should apply to this program. And I applied and got in and then didn't do it. But it was like, wow, like that's crazy that I could do that. And then that company ended up becoming the first company that I started. And anyway, that was because you were the one that like got me into it, man.
You had it before me.
Way to go, John.
Yeah. So
you should have equity in all of Zach's companies. I think that's what that means. For free.
I take him to lunch like twice a year. Yeah.
Not even twice a year. I would take twice a year. That'd be an upgrade.
Okay. Well, let's go to lunch today. I'm free for lunch today.
I am on 30 minutes of sleep, so probably not today.
Zach always forgets his wallet, John.
Yeah.
Also, John, are you stateside right now, or are you Gonzo?
I am in Orem, Utah.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Barely stateside then. It's like Utah's third world country.
Wait, John, you want to tell us a little bit about what you're up to nowadays?
I go back and forth between here and India. The end. Also, I'm Utah's intern.
You're Utah's intern. Okay, well, I would put you as like Utah's connector, but I think intern, works well. Getting coffee, getting connections.
That's not all. I want to know more, John. Why are you halftime between the two? I've never met John before, so.
I've been in India for almost 10 years now for software development. So I've got a team of about 40 engineers there, and I go back and forth.
Cool.
Big believer of face-to-face connections.
Bangalore or where?
Pune.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
But he also, how many startups have you done now, John?
3, 4, somewhere in there. It depends what you count as a start. Zach, do you define a startup? When is it just like an idea, tinkering versus like this was an official startup?
I think it depends on how sad you are if it fails.
My opinion right now is it's not a startup if I didn't generate more than 100K.
Okay,
it was a side project.
Yeah, that's
okay. So it's a start, and then when does it become a business?
Somewhere. So I don't know. I used to say a business was official when you get your first dollar in revenue, but that's too easy of a metric these days. Inflation.
Yeah, but I like that. So it's a side project until it produces $100,000. Then it's a startup, and then what is it like?
That's how I count startups in my head. Like all of us have had probably. I have over 200 domain names, right? That doesn't mean I've done 200 startups.
That's true.
You go to SaaStr, you get some good ideas, you talk to some people. Like that's just an idea.
Who by the way, speaking of domain stuff, can I just give you my favorite domain purchaser tool?
Are you getting paid for this one too?
No, look. Bucky's, Legos, and Instant Domain Search do not pay me. But if you go to instantdomainsearch.com, it is so awesome because you type it in and it will like each letter as you type it in, it'll in real time, show you exactly what domains are available, which ones are purchased. And so it's like such an easy way to check domain availability. Instantdomainsearch.com. All right. So on the menu for today at Cereal for Lunch, we're going to talk about the 4 ways that startups actually end and why most of us are building for the wrong one. Grammarly acquiring Superhuman. Is it synergy? Is it a soft landing? Or is this pure AI theater? And Figma's IPO is back. Is this the thaw that we've been waiting for? Is like IPOs? Is this going to happen again? And John, fair warning, at the end, you're going to give us one of your no BS pieces of advice that you wish that every early stage founder needs to hear. Okay, so just know for that. So first segment, founder therapy. Let's talk about the 4 ways that startups. What happens with startups? You either fail, you get acquired, you IPO, or you keep going, right? And 90% of startups fail. So I want to start the first session of the first segment here with founder therapy. Talk about 90% of these startups fail. Has anyone here ever had to shut down a company that they started? Because we got two yeses, we got 2 no's. John, what does it feel like to wind down a company to you?
It's depressing. It's like 6 months of depression. It's like not knowing what to do next. It's like your whole identity goes down the tube.
What have you done to get over that?
Have good friends like you and Derek Hall who lift you up, who help you realize it's just part of the process.
I pause when you ask that question because based on, John, your definition of startups and other things, I've definitely had ideas that I started trying to fly and either lost motivation or it's hard. But I don't think the level of personal investment, meaning the emotional investment, I found that every startup that I've done that's worked, I've had to put myself in a position where I couldn't not make it work. And usually for me, it's usually financially, and that number has grown over time. But I have been near death in the ones that I've put myself in that position with multiple times, and it is
basically dead.
Very,
near
very
dead,
dark.
basically
Very,
dead.
Yeah, like board member coming to me being Kurt Roberts, one of my most favorite people in the world, at eVisit came to me December 2019. Like, hey Brett, I love you, right? And no good conversation starts that way. I remember
besides the proposal.
No,
right? I love you. So will you marry me? Every other conversation besides that's a bad opener.
We were gonna die. He was like, "There's no more money. All the reserves are deployed. 2020, you get profitable. You sell the business, or you're out of business." And it was Bree and I, we had $5,000 in our savings account, $100,000 on a credit card we used to start eVisit. I wasn't taking a salary. It is dark. It worked. It ended up working out, but by the sheer grace of God, it feels like.
Yeah, I'm just not as good as you. I fumbled.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. When I didn't answer Zach's question, I was like, I know I've been there. It's not. It has. I don't know. For those of us who've done it and it has worked, it takes a lot of work, but there's so much happenstance that occurs in the right places that you've got to be prepared to take advantage of. I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, because I think for me, it was one of those things where I can remember the call that I had where I was like, okay, this startup is going to end. And my co-founder called me and he's like, dude, I can't do this anymore. And he was my CTO. And him walking away with, the equity that he had, with the salary that he had, the money that he was making, it was I couldn't replace him. And so it was that's it. That was it. And hanging up, I remember taking my cell phone, hitting and putting it down. And there's such this sadness that comes over you. It's almost like a death of a animal, your beloved pet, And then I don't know about you, John, but the second that I was this actually is done, there was almost a relief of okay, I've seen this ship sinking slowly for the last little while, and at least now I know it might not be at the bottom of the ocean, but that thing is sinking. And now it's just a matter of all right, what island do I swim to next? What boat do I build next? I don't know. Did you ever feel that relief after or was it?
No, because mine was it was unexpected. Yours was expected.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Wasn't something, I feel like you shared this story before, but it was something about like it was pre-India, right? Like
no, it's part of India. So it was part of tinytorch.com, and Facebook got into their whole Cambridge
right.
Analytica data privacy issues, and they shut off the API and then told us the next day that the API would be off for 6 months. And we were like at the doorstep of passing $1 million in lifetime revenue. We were doing like 30, 45,000 a month in revenue. And I'm like, I've made it. Like, I'm self-funded. We've built it. I moved to India to make this happen. We got our first Fortune 500 client. You know, so momentum's going. I was looking at Canva in that space, and I'm like, hey, this is kind of where I want to target. Canva was a lot smaller then. At the time, you're like, hey, I'm worth what, 2, 3, 4 million, you know, on paper. And then, you know, I spent all of my savings, $230,000 building that version of the app to land my Fortune 500 company. And then Facebook killed us. No warning, nothing.
Okay,
John, what was the key learning from that? Like, what the big takeaway for you in that business big model?
Don't rely on a business model where one party can kill you. One partnership.
Right up till the sentence that you said, all right, Facebook made a change and then we died. Right up to that point, everything you were describing sounded so fun. Like, that's the best part about a startup. It's like, oh man, there's just a little glimpse of traction. There's a user who's freaking using it. It's like, is this going to work? And then it's like, all right, bet the farm. Like, we've all freaking done it.
Chad. It's like skydiving out of a parachute. It's super fun until the end, right?
Until you realize you're actually falling. Until you
yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's startups are like, I don't know. A lot of times we talk about how hard they are, and certainly they are. I mean, they really, literally are. It will take years of life off of anyway. But when it's good, it's freaking great. It's so fun. There's nothing more euphoric than winning and building your own startup. There's nothing more euphoric than that.
I don't know. Chad and I were talking last night, and a fellow founder came up to him the other day and was like, I just realized I don't have any money. And in the same, you know, in a 15-minute period of time, he got like a massive pat on the back about this other founder, about like how much someone loved their application. It's like, that is the perfect example of what it's like to build a company. In one moment, literally within a 15-minute span, you might be closing the biggest customer you've ever had and losing the next biggest one you've ever signed. And like the emotional tension that constantly exists is like, I feel like it makes us feel alive. There's something broken in us when we keep doing it. Something
like it's like you get a kiss on the cheek and a kick to the balls every day, right?
Yes.
And just don't mix those things up. But that's like pretty much what it is. And I feel like
don't mix those things up.
But it's one of those things where I've talked to people who, you know, like yesterday, it was like, oh my gosh, this is so frustrating. We've got this giant thing, like sign the contract, you know, like it's like we're right there in the 1 yard line. We have another thing that's like big fire going. And so we're all on the phone or slacking each other, trying to like figure this thing out. And then as soon as we're doing that, we get an email from one of our largest customers that says, hey, just to let you know that you were just nominated to be Vendor of the Year, and you've made such a huge impact on our business, and we just want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. And it's like, okay, here we go. Like, that's so cool, you know? And so I'm just, it's tough, right? But I mean, like, it is like flying high, and then the parachute thing, keeping with that analogy of VC-backed startups, 16% actually get acquired. And Brett, would you turn off your notifications for our group chat? We're all getting the texts, and you're
my computer's on Do Not Disturb. I don't know what's going on.
Oh man, I was just checking, and it is in Do Not Disturb. But also, let me interrupt us with.
Problem solved.
That's why I have them. And but let me interrupt with Brandon sending a selfie of his newest Lego that he got today.
Oh,
so we're really missing out on this. Yeah.
Our group chat used to talk about like startup stuff, and now I feel like at least a third of it is Legos. Anyway, okay.
Hey,
so
back to therapy.
16% get acquired, right? Less than 1% obviously go IPO. But like, I feel like a lot of those acquisitions are kind of like, using the parachute analogy, it's like, buy this parachute, used once, never opened, small stain. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's the way a lot of these startups are. And you get it, Brett?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure you got it.
They died. They're dead.
But like, isn't that how a lot of these acquisitions are? Of like, they're kind of like these ghost acquisitions. And so I want to talk about. Let's go to the group chat segment. Grammarly buying Superhuman. So is this like a good thing for Superhuman, or is this all like a merger of two tools we forgot we've been paying for the last year? Like, are people still spending $30 a month to send email faster? I don't really understand this acquisition.
Well, didn't Grammarly just close a round recently? Wasn't like a $1 billion round they just closed?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, and I think it was to buy companies, but like, help me understand the Grammarly and Superhuman acquisition.
Well, it makes more sense as I've looked at it, where Grammarly is a co-writing tool, right? Like, and they're buying a place where a lot of writing happens. But I feel like it's two features that they're merging together. I think of all the productivity tools that Dropbox tried to acquire over the years to integrate into the cloud storage system they have, and how like none of it really panned out for them. And I'd love a better way to email. I was a Superhuman user for a couple weeks, and I was just like, just feels like more work, not less. I don't know. I mean, Superhuman was close to $1 billion valuation, right? 872 million.
A few years ago, yeah.
It doesn't sound like a successful exit to me, but I don't know.
Well,
yeah.
well,
typically, like, is this the used parachute thing, or is like Superhuman? Because anyway, it seems like Grammarly buying Superhuman. It's to your point, Brett, of it being two features. Like, is this gonna make anyone's life better by having this together? I don't quite see it. John, what do you think? Is this like?
I don't know. It's news to me. I don't know. It makes sense. I think it's a distribution channel. Is what they're buying. In the age of AI, distribution channels are what matter.
Well, I totally agree. And I think there's a lot of context that can be gained from that. And Grammarly was in some ways generative AI before ChatGPT made it more widely adopted.
Good point.
I think it'll be interesting to watch what they do with it. Here's my thoughts. Like, when you see Meta acquire an Instagram or a WhatsApp, like, they have a direct channel to exponential revenue growth because it's an eyeballs play. Like, these are consumer level subscriptions that they try to upgrade into enterprise plans. And so the integration, the hard part isn't acquiring. Like, that's easy. Go offer someone money. If they're in a hard spot, you can get to the right point to negotiate. The hard part is integration. How do you make that product, how do you get it to continue to live and or transition users over to a new product, which is 10 times harder because now you're battling against muscle memory. And so my gut tells me this is going to be like a massive, like, it's not going to work well for them, that they'll kill Superhuman. They'll give it 18 months and then kill it. But I'm often wrong.
Well, one thing that's suspect, like, compared to a lot of deals coming out of the Valley, is that they are not disclosing the number. They're not bragging about it. And that doesn't always mean that just because there's not a press release and that just because they haven't released a number doesn't mean that it wasn't successful. But in a lot of ways, given how much capital they have raised, it's likely that it's not a massive number. So I don't know. That's weird.
Here's a conversation I'm having, at least at the board level, in 3 of the 5 boards I sit on. Software companies are struggling. There's going to be a lot more deals to be had. Save our cash, wait for the right opportunities. Like that is 3 of the 5. The other 2 aren't in a position where they can actually make that move. And so I do think it's like you're waiting and watching, and there's got to be some thesis. And I do think as a founder CEO, there's something exciting about the idea of being a person that is acquiring something else, and that can get in the way of making the right decision. Because it sounds sexy. It's like, yeah, we made an acquisition, and it's like, okay, like what did you do with it? What did it get you? How did that, I don't know. There's got to be a lot more strategy behind it that I think a lot of people put there.
John, what are some big acquisition flops that you've seen?
Pluralsight. Aren't most acquisitions Pluralsight went bankrupt?
Wait, who bought them then?
Private equity.
Oh, did they flop because PE bought them, and then they tried to, like, you lose your soul a little bit when PE buys you. Like you lose that vision, that drive. You know
Scott Fraser. He ran the Salt Lake Olympic Committee. He once told me for 2002. He says if you have a startup that's doing 10 million in revenue, when you get rid of the founder, it virtually always crumbles. And my guess is any private equity group, or when you come in and buy a company, they don't understand the magic of what made it work, and they start changing too many things too fast.
Yeah, I offended one particular general partner at one very well-known VC group here in Utah.
What, Gavin?
Because
why was Gavin mad at you?
Because I told him that 2 of his startups did poorly because they ejected the founders. So, yeah, it's been a little dicey since then. But that's the truth. I mean, and it's not like they're dumb. They know the trade-off that they were making, right? But yeah, you remove the founder, and I mean, there's just a lot of things that don't fit in a spreadsheet that impact significantly the ability for that business to grow and get to market.
Or they focus on things that don't matter. I pay attention to when a new CEO comes in, if they change the logo, I think they're destined to fail.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
The rebrand. Yeah,
because it's like that is so symptomatic. It's like
yeah.
I've got a tumor in my head. It's like the CEO comes in and it's like, all right, let's take some Tylenol. It's like it's not the problem, right? And I feel like that is something where that's a really good point, because I've seen 2 companies in the restaurant tech space. They brought in a new CEO. First thing they did was rebrand. When that CEO was fired, the first thing the next CEO did is go back to the old brand.
Here's
in both cases.
Here's the problem. When you bring in someone into something that's existing in its early stage, a lot of times they think it's a scale problem. And it's not usually a scale problem. So they try to operate their way out of what's happening. And usually it's fundamentally a product innovation opportunity.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Brett.
No,
I was going to say
sorry, wait, here. You go ahead.
They say that, they're optimizing for success, right? They're hiring somebody who is studious, right? Who is a good student, not somebody who is an entrepreneur. And they try to optimize their way to get there, and it's just not that way.
Here's where that works really well, though. If a company buying you is fundamentally understands more about your market than you do, right? Because to your point, it's a product innovation problem. I talked to someone who they bought a company at $11 million. A PE group bought a company $11 million. The GM goes in. And over the next 3 years, he increased, and this is a really old company. Over the next 3 years, they increase it to $40 million of revenue. And he did that because he understood one little thing about this industry that the company that he was acquiring didn't get. And so by making that change, he literally doubled the revenue, right? So they have 20, they went from 10 to 10 to 20 of like growth. All right, let's like over the last few years, but they doubled the revenue by just understanding this little intricacy. And I think that when you go deep in an industry and you really understand what's going on there, it gives you such a power, which is why when they kick founders out who understand that industry so well, they're losing some of those insights that the founder can't necessarily put it down in an SOP to say, here's what I feel, or here's why I'm thinking this way. But they're taking billions of data points and their brain is just saying, this is the direction we should go. And when you lose those billions of data points and what we call gut, which is really the amalgamation of all those small data points, that any one of which seems so silly, but it's like, no. Like the way that he moved in his chair when we talked about that product, it's like that one thing might not be it, but you take a 1,000 signals, and that's what we do as founders. We put all those things together, right?
Yeah. I think one of the
No.
Sorry about that.
No, hey, I forgive you.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have to referee here. You guys are being too nice to each other. Stop this.
When you go to acquire a company, you have to have an underlying thesis on how to compound value for that product is providing, right? And so you think about these like platform plays or these marketplace plays, the ability to integrate and create more value, more utilization, more utility in the product. If that's where Grammarly is going with Superhuman, and or vice versa, if they see Superhuman as the front side of that, or maybe it's a data acquisition, I think there's an opportunity to compound value. But honestly, I haven't seen anything about Grammarly in years aside from the $1 billion capital raise and then the acquisition of Superhuman. So I just think like when you go to acquire, there has to be a strategy where there's significant like good things that can happen out of the combined like product suite.
Yeah.
Which is why you usually see companies integrate and collaborate before acquisition to see if they can actually create that ahead of time. And companies do it smart when they invest and they're essentially buying. I mean, Salesforce did it with Spiff, right? Salesforce invested in their B round. They got a 20% discount into their acquisition of it. Right. They wanted to see.
Well, and they get like all the papers, right? You can like see it growing from the inside. Yeah. I actually let a couple of people who may acquire down the road Ovation, I let them invest a little bit of money, like a couple of the founders, because I wanted them to see it from the inside. Because at the end of the day, it's like, yes, it's a sales pitch when you sell the company, but it's also like a trust thing. And I think that all of this stuff, all the skeletons or whatever, they're going to see those anyway. So why not just have them be an investor and like let them help me solve problems as opposed to try to figure out how to hide it in diligence, right? But speaking of getting like a total body exam, I mean, IPOs are one of those things where it's like that is just nuts what you have to go through for that. And so post Adobe breakup, Figma is going solo now. If you guys remember 2022, remember when Adobe was going to buy Figma for $20 billion?
Yep.
And then they decided to back out because of regulatory concerns. Do you remember what the breakup fee was for that?
It was $1 billion.
$1 billion breakup fee. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would be so freaking rich if I got a fee every time someone broke up with me. And it was like, I wish. But I mean, even if that's not that bad of a breakup fee. I'll just take that, right? Just give me the breakup fee. But Figma going IPO, is this a signal that SaaS IPOs are back, or is this just kind of like a weird one? I have talked to numerous companies recently that are in the 100 to 200 million revenue space that are talking about IPOing now. Is this something that's happening? What do we think?
100%. And it's led by, I mean, investors need to get capital and return capital, right? So it either has to be through acquisition or through a public offering.
Or through a write-off by a failure.
Yeah, fair. but I mean, you look, there's quite a Circle went public. The reaction's been really great. Stripe should go public at some point. Like investors need and want to return capital because their life cycle is spinning and they've got to go raise the next fund. Some of these larger funds have more luxury of waiting. But man, the boards I sit on, I have funds that are pushing the companies to do unnatural things because they're on their next fund cycle. And it's bullshit because it pushes the company to an unnatural place. And a lot of times depending on the VC, they're sitting there and they have different motivations and a portfolio where they can afford to lose one or two or seven because the other 2 to 3
have already
are
returned the
return
fund.
It. I had a lead investor of a previous round tell one of my CEOs, yeah, we've already written this asset down to book value. And I was like, why in the world would you say that to a CEO ever? Even if you have, like, what's wrong with you?
It's pretty funny. It's actually pretty
funny. Did you
funny.
actually ask him that?
I know it was a her, and I heard it third party, so I need to validate it actually happened. But I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Right. So I don't know.
I would bet you a signed $2 bill that she has never been a founder, if that's the case.
Well, the other thing is the company's
Bingo.
got like 18 to $22 million on the balance sheet. I'm like, it's got like so many options. This isn't a company that's like got 3 months of runway left. This is, I mean,
do you know why that's the case? It's because they have a thesis and a fund life cycle, so they don't give a crap after a certain period of time. Yeah, literally. So like, do you fit into their box? This is the challenge. And to be clear, like, I've definitely been a proponent of VC. I've raised capital, in the past, and so people will hear me like talk, both for it and against it, and it always depends on whether you should try and raise VC. Also, I have like this little pet peeve of always a first-time founder who says, "Oh, we're going to go raise capital in September." Like, no, bullshit. You're not going to raise capital in September. You're going to try, but you're probably not going to raise capital. Anyway, everyone just kind of assumes, but like, I don't dislike VC. There's a place for it, but I think that founders need to know that you are one of a group. And there are certain expectations that you need to meet, and there's good things that you need to do as a holder of fiduciary. But you need to just go build your business and stop worrying so much about the talking heads who also should be your friends, and you know the most about your business. You just need to go operate and go build a good business and worry a lot less about what they think.
Here's my rule for raising capital. Like when I look for partners, and I would say there's one exception to this rule in my experience where it's worked out incredibly well for me. I look for partners in VCs who have operated in a business, and I look for signals to tell me that they're going to treat me like a partner, not an employee. I recognize my role when I'm the CEO that I'm also an employee, but at the board level, I am the founder. I am a partner. I more often than not hold more equity in the company than anyone else. And so, but the reason I look for those partners who've operated is because they get it. Like the difference between, like, you bring a problem to a board, and in my experience, if it's someone who's always been a financial investor, their answer is, "We'll just fix it." And I'm like, "Oh, great, thank you. I've got some advice."
It's like my wife's swim coach in high school. When she asked, like, "How do I swim faster?" He said, "Move your arms faster."
Well, no, it's like, okay, great, yeah, just buy low and sell high. Just do that. And you go to someone who's operated, and they're like, "Okay, well, I've seen this before in this context. I did this. It worked out this way. If I were you, I'd look at it this way." And then usually what they say is, "But I'm not doing this right now. You are, and I trust you." And the one exception to that was our partner at Goldman. Like, Goldman, if you have a chance to take money from Goldman, do it. Because he was like, "Hey, here's what I think. Here's what I'm seeing across the portfolio, but I've never done it before, and I trust you." And it's like, that's the type of partner you want. You want someone who can give you context on the patterns they're seeing, and then hand the keys back to you and be like, figure it out. Like
what have you seen, John? What do you think some of the best? I know this is like kind of a little off the topic of like the Figma IPO, but what have you seen as terms of like the best VCs? What should founders be looking for? You've interacted with like every VC that I've ever met, so
and then some.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, I look for the VCs that push you to do it on your own.
What do you mean?
I mean, the ones I've respected the most are the ones who've told me to like double down and figure it out, and then I found out I didn't need them.
Yeah,
and then and then I turn them down later.
Well, isn't that always the case, right? Where like they're never going. On very rare occasions, are they ever going to lean in and do anything besides maybe fire you? And by the way, I do love my VCs, like, but their job is to determine who sits in that chair, and it's their fiduciary responsibility to do that. But like at the end of the day, as operators, if we're looking for someone else to take charge, then like maybe we should be fired. You know, like I totally agree with you, John. The constant. It's like, well, hey, get to 2 million and then we'll talk. And like you get to 2 million. Hey, maybe if you get to 5, we could take a really close look at this. You get to 5.
They do that.
You know, it would be 5 or 6. We could see 20 million.
Yeah.
And like,
and I like someone who believes in you, and I don't like people who play that game. So for me, I always feel like chasing VC is generally a distraction. And then if the VC is not chasing you, I just tell people it's not worth the time.
You need leverage. Yeah, exactly. Like if you don't have leverage, don't fundraise. You're not ready yet. I totally agree.
Yeah. I mean, I just talked to a guy the other day. He's at my exact same revenue, except he's been at it for like 3 more years than me. And he has not taken $1 from VCs. I mean, he gave 10% to his dad, and he owns 90% of his company. And they're the exact same revenue as us. Right. And it's like, man, that is just incredible to see. And Brett, don't be texting people. I just got
Brandon.
I know you can't text on a podcast. Anyway, I'm just giving you a hard time today. It's Brett's moving day, so we're giving him a
Brett is literally packing his house. Yeah. Save me. No, Zach, it's interesting. I don't know why we haven't even talked about this very much lately, because it's more feasible. The market is shifting, like payroll numbers are shifting. It's definitely becoming more of an employer's market, especially with, you know, the disruption in the VC market, as well as the introduction of AI. We're not expected to burn as much money to receive good valuations. In fact, we receive better valuations upon burning less, and acceptable moderate growth numbers, right? Which is still very hard to achieve. And so the options now are very different. You absolutely can build a business, not fundraise with institutional investors, and do some creative fundraising if needed, and still maintain a ton of control. In fact, you know, I did the VC playbook last time. You know, we raised a bunch of money. We burned a lot of it. We burned a freaking house every month, right? Like it was just wild. And now, you know, I was just talking to somebody the other day and running some numbers from 2024. At Distro, we burned $1,800 last year. You know, and it's just kind of wild, like the optionality that you get. Now, the irony, the situation that I'm in, we had a lot of market traction when we first started. We went and sold 3 customers. A huge enterprise was our first customer. A few $100,000 in revenue in the first 6 weeks of selling. This was in the summer of 2022. And then the market crashes and VC just blows up in the summer of 2022. You know, for us, like everyone was like, are we in a recession? And we're like, yes, we're in a freaking deep recession. You know, if you're in tech, you know this, right? And it was really, really bad. And we actually got an offer from a VC like 2 weeks before this happened, and we were negotiating term sheet. We're negotiating the term sheet, and they tried to retrade, and I said no.
Can you just tell us who it was?
Do you want me to like throw them under the bus like
Yeah, I would
super
like
hard
to.
right now?
I'm pretty sure I know.
No,
who it is,
that
and
was
they're
a
the worst.
crazy time. Don't
It-
throw about
it-
the buzz.
It might be worth it. Just kidding. I won't say it. But I'm sure all of us could guess. I'm sure all of us could get. Yeah, you know who you are. I'm sure
Okay, why don't you
everyone could guess here.
just pretend like you're going to say it, and we'll bleep it out. It was poop.
If Cam will bleep it out, it was. Anyway, I really like some of the guys there as well, but Cam, make sure to bleep that out. And then, but because of that, at Distro, I hold most of the equity, almost all of the equity, and we have no institutional investors, and it just leaves a ton of optionality. Could we still go raise capital? Absolutely. Could we choose also not to for a while? Absolutely. Just creates a lot of optionality. So who knows, the details of this Superhuman deal. But I also know that given the nature of filing an S1 and giving over all your numbers and everything, I guess that's a different deal. We were talking
Figma.
about the fight.
Figma,
Yeah, that was
yeah.
Figma. But the nature of this deal, Grammarly's not going to buy, a completely broken asset. So we'll see. We never know. It's like a 50-50 toss up.
By the way, I think it's interesting. You hear about companies that are struggling and people start to, poo-poo it. And I'm like, man, most of us would give our, right arm to have those problems. Like
I thought you were going to say something else.
Yeah,
but,
but,
right,
and I was
something.
like,
but
my
until
kids
you
might
get there,
listen.
right? And then all of a sudden you are down a right arm, and you're like, this is actually really hard.
I really needed that one. But genuinely, there's a pretty well-known company in Arizona that they reached like 120 million, hit like a massive churn problem, and people were ragging on them like crazy. And I'm like, I'll say you'd give your left testicle to have $100 million problem. That is the problem we all dream of. And when you're running a company, the problems don't go away; they just get better. And I would so much rather be solving an $872 million problem than like a $10 million problem. Like, your problems get better. And but on the Figma going public, I think it's better for the community. I think it's better for their users. Like, this path versus the Adobe path, I think continues to create innovation and utility and an incredible user experience.
And their numbers are so freaking strong.
Wild. It's 93% gross margin.
Right. Growing 50% when you're at
46%
over. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's wild.
All right, John, bring us home, man. What is one thing you wish every founder knew before they raised, hired, and spent the next 2 years building something that nobody wants?
I mean, just go sell it. Validation. Validate it.
Like, before you build it?
Didn't you do that with me? Literally everything I've done, I've always pre-sold it before I've ever done anything.
That a million times that.
You create a pitch. Back when we had Shacks, when you were with us at Dental Motion,
Yep.
we literally created a PowerPoint. We got a logo for like $30, and we sold 5 clients. And then we hustled to hack something together.
Did you try to actually build something, or did you create sort of process workflow value,
The mechanical Turk.
Yeah, like at Distro, we were able to replicate an interview, and we're able to score candidates, which then we match to people to then hire. So we were able to do that by manually doing interviews to test, and then recording the data. And then all we did was sort of use I think we used Zoho as like the first CRM. So we automated some workflow from Zoho and a Google Sheet, and that was like it. And then our emails were manually written notifications. So it was that's kind of how we pieced it together. So what did it look like for you guys when you started that?
We created a PowerPoint, we created a website, we told them we could get them up and running in a couple of weeks. I loosely knew how to architect build it, and then we hacked it together after we sold it. But we didn't deposit the checks before we could deliver.
It's cool.
I love that.
Aren't there a couple of benefits from that? Like, there's the sale benefit, and then there's the product knowledge and feedback benefit, but there's another one. There's a speed benefit. It creates this arbitrary deadline for you that you sort of just have to meet. We need this on Thursday. Why Thursday? Because we freaking need it on Thursday.
Yeah.
The customer's expecting it Friday morning when I have a meeting at 9:30. And so it just kind of like, I don't know. Is that how your experience was?
Yeah.
That's cool.
But even in that case, even if we couldn't produce, all we had to do go back to them and just say, hey, something happened. We need more time. Are you still interested?
Sure. Right. But for your team, it's like, all right, let's at least go try and achieve that. Right. And certainly like in programming, what, half the time do we actually hit our deadline or meet our deadline? I don't know. So
we always hit our deadlines.
Yeah. At Codebase, we hit our deadlines.
I think we're really good at hitting. We hit 95% of our deadlines.
That's awesome.
It must be a pleasant growth thing because John always hits his deadlines. So there's something in the water.
Oh, man. Yeah, they're in Flint. Well, hey, that's it for this episode of Cereal for Lunch. If you laughed, learned, or felt personally attacked, like, subscribe, and send to the most delusional founder in your group chat. Cereal for Lunch, part of your balanced startup.